Way Back and Trade, a podcast by Trading the Market.
Welcome to episode 4 of Lay Back and Trade by Trading the Market. I'm Matt and I'm joined by Mark. Mark is one of the founders of Trading the Market and a pro trader himself. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Matt. And what I will say to everybody back listening is Matt is our host of the podcast, and Matt is a budding trader and using this podcast to learn his journey. So welcome to you, Matt, and how are you?
Yeah, great. Pretty good. Decent enough weekend. Pretty quiet, just how I like it. Building up to the big one, which is going to be last week by the time this comes out. Getting ready for... Actually, no. That won't even be game week 8. This will come out on game week 8. So actually, I'll be having another quiet weekend.
Well, this would actually be game week 8 if you just count more than the top league of football. So we've played 8 games in the Championship and below, haven't we?
I suppose we have, yeah.
Yeah.
And the rate of knots a few of the European leagues are going through at the moment, playing games mid-weekend on the weekend, there probably will actually be more opportunities than I'm thinking. And
I think that's something we're covering later on in the podcast, aren't we? I did have the opportunity and absolute pleasure listening to you and Dan have an interview last week. Well, it'll be 2 weeks ago with time this is out. That was a phenomenal interview, and albeit bar one rogue comment, that was very, very well received, I found.
Well, glad you enjoyed it. It was really great talking to Dan, and the support for that conversation was overwhelming, really. There's a lot of interest in it, and a lot of people understood why that conversation happened and what it was all about, so that was good to see.
Well, I noticed one of the comments on the video was Chris Tillier 3725. He put the best podcast to date. So, well done.
Oh, thank you very much, Chris.
That must mean he hates me and you talking.
Well, he's going to skip this episode then, isn't it?
Yeah, wait till we're back interviewing Dan. No, I'm sure he's enjoyed the other one too, and I'm sure Chris will let us know if he hasn't. And Jeff Downsall 7366 wrote absolutely bloody brilliant interview, and Half Z62 fantastic podcast. So well done, Matt, and well done, Dan, as I'm sure he'll be listening to this one.
And thank you, listeners. It's a pleasure.
So what's in store for the listeners this week, Matt?
This week we've got 3 main priorities to talk about. We're going to be going through Lay the Field for Formula 1, how to pick a racehorse winner, and the video you've done actually prior to that subject, and why to wait 8 games to pick a game of football to trade.
Very interesting. Nice cover of topics.
I believe so. Very hands-on, sort of practical subjects, really.
Yeah, so when does it start?
When does what start?
The podcast.
Now.
You picked Way Back and Trade, probably because you thought BTC stood for the Butterfly Tickling Club.
So let's get straight into it then, Mark. You're going to talk us through how to lay the field in F1. Now, I know the championship's already been wrapped up and we're at the arse end of the season now, but please take us through it and the pros and cons.
No problem. So, lay the field or lay the card is a horse racing strategy that can be applied to anything that has a singular outcome. So, you're wanting to apply this strategy to any event or market where there is multiple people competing or multiple events competing for a singular correct answer. So, you couldn't do a lay the field, for example, or it'd be too complex to do it on something like each way on horses or a top 2, top 3 finish. As the amount of matches you require would be astronomical. So, in the Formula 1 world, of where I apply this strategy more than I do anything else regarding horses, is we're looking for one singular winner, but we're trying to lay multiple people at that ideal price. So, we want to lay, ideally, more than one driver. So, for example, if we're going to the Vegas Grand Prix, which I know is coming up very soon, and Max Verstappen is leading it, and we get a lay price of 1.7 or less, I always say 1.7 because that's usually a really good price to get. It's not unrealistic because if a driver's going in at 1.05, the market already thinks that driver's going to win. And then Max goes in for a pit stop, has an horrendous pit stop. And, for example, Carlos Sainz, who's just won a Grand Prix himself in Singapore, he then takes the lead and the market start thinking he's going to win. Then his price will drop down to below 1.7, and then you've now backed two drivers at 1.7 for lay the track, which results in if one wins, the other one will give you enough of a profit to cover the loss of the other one. So say we put a tenner on it. So we're going to put a tenner on at 1.7. It's going to cost us £7 liability. When that driver then you then match a second driver at 1.7, that's going to be a further £7 liability for your tenner. So if when that first driver wins and the second driver loses, you lose your £7 liability, but because the second driver lost, you then get the £10 you laid. So you'd have a profit of £3. Now, if you could do this across 4 or 5 drivers, it gets very, very lucrative. But for example, in that Singapore Grand Prix, we had Carlos Sainz, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton all dropped below that 1.7 mark for the lay. And I even think Norris was in the mix, to be fair. And that would have resulted in a massive profit. Now, it could be a complex one to get your head round. There is a lay the field strategy video on our YouTube channel, which you can click on. The concept works the same. But is it something you've used yourself, the lay the field, Matt?
It isn't yet. I have been looking at F1. I keep wanting to jump in, but I have to say, where Max has been dominating, and the race you're referring to, Singapore, I actually missed. But prior to that, I would have struggled to find an entry point, I think, by not having confidence in getting involved because of Max's price and how much he's been dominating the races of late.
Yeah, so that's the issue with lay the field. So I'm going to get more than likely Paul Laxed in the comments about this. It's pointless telling us about a strategy that doesn't currently work. It does work. But it'll only work when Max doesn't have dominance, and he has had dominance he's been dominant all season, but there are the odd race where he hasn't had that dominance. The Singapore one was a great example. When he's starting so far down in the pit, in the pole position, that's a great opportunity to start getting you requesting to lay drivers. And the easiest way to do it is put in a lay price at 1.7 on every single driver and keep in play. And then if a driver that drops into that, then you can get matched. The problem we have now is because of Max Verstappen's dominance, we are finding it very hard to get that match price. But good news is Max plans on retiring in 2025, but it's still a strategy you can use in the meantime. It works because you are matching many drivers to lose, and you only need to match 2, anything less than 0.2, in order to make a profit, less commission. And the ideal tracks for it to be laid on, for lay the track to work on, would be tracks where there's...
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if you could use that all through the season.
Yes, you can, but there are tracks it wouldn't work on. You've got to profile your track, and I'm sure people are sick of me saying the word profiling, but I'm a big believer in data and a big believer in research. And if your car can't overtake, so for example, Monaco is renowned for being a track that's very difficult to overtake on. So if you have a driver in the lead, albeit his car blowing up or crashing, he's unlikely to lose that lead. It'd only be through some form of pit strategy or one of the very rare overtakes. So people aren't going to... That price of the drivers behind ain't going to drop far enough in order for you to get that match, because there's no belief that driver will lose his position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but obviously if Ferrari are leading 1-2 at Monaco, it's probably a great strategy to use because they are the king of self-implosion, aren't they?
Oh yeah, it's the kamikaze pit crew, to be fair. They do have some rough rides with them, and I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure if it's a problem with the team, its practice, its equipment, but yeah, the strategy by Ferrari is not it's not self-serving, really, is it?
No, and a big factor of that is probably the mentality of the dominance behind Red Bull and prior to that Mercedes, you just cannot afford to lose a millisecond.
No, of course. And I post quite often my bet for the end of an F1 when I've made a fair bit of money. And that itself, as you would know, is I don't tend to lay the field currently as max dominance. But what I am doing is, and a strategy that's very useful on F1 is scalping. You can scalp that price up and down all day long, as I believe I've taught you to do, haven't I, Matt?
Yeah, I was involved in a few early on. I think because Max was dominating so much, like I did the Schumacher years, I lost interest in F1. So for me, 2 years ago when it was Hamilton and Verstappen going at it, I was all over it. I didn't miss a race. I've watched all races up until maybe the last two, and my interest waned a bit.
Yeah, I get that.
But of course, if it's a money-making vehicle, you've got every need to get up and watch it.
Yeah, it's an income for me, so I will trade it. And for anybody who says there isn't an opportunity to make money because Max is so dominant, I think that would be naive due to the fact that the scalping opportunity just between, so when his price settles, and it could settle around 1.2 for example, there'll be that natural curve and drift between 1.16 to 2.26 thereabouts. And you can just ride that price up and down, up and down. It's quite fun to do. You can do it on the backside, or you can lay it. It's up to you.
No, that's interesting because I'm glad you said the prices you did there, because typically after about 10 laps, if not sooner, he is often sitting at a back price of under 1.2.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But you can take that to your advantage, and I've seen his price get to as low as 1.05 with half a race left to go because he took a 20-second lead. At that point, I'd be sticking a Hail Mary lay on just for the fact that so much can go wrong in that time, so much.
Of course.
Yeah, it's just going to be a cheap lay, especially with the sport it is and the amount of laps are going left. Look, if there's 5 laps left, I ain't laying him at 1.05. But if there's half a race, and that's half a race of anything. That's half a race of safety cars, a really bad overtake on a blue flag when he's trying to pass the slower drivers he's lapping. There's all manner of things that could go wrong, as we've seen in the pits.
And they don't have to go too wrong, I suppose, for that price to creep back up.
No, not at all. And you can just take your money and
run.
Be
a blip and an overreaction.
Yeah, 100%. I am a fanatic of F1, as you know, but more recently I've been watching it due to my driver. I don't mind stating who I support, and that would be Lando Norris. He's had many upgrades to his car, so he's been quite competitive. So I am watching with the hope that Max sticks it in the wall and Lando finally wins one.
It is due. We've been expecting it to happen since it must be 2021 when he led in Sochi in the rain and made a naive mistake to not come in to pit for wets.
Well, he currently holds a record in F1, which is, and that was he only got recently, the record is achieving the most points of any F1 driver without a race win.
It's not really a record you want, is it? But where there's so many points on offer now, you can see how that's happened.
Yeah, it isn't a record you want at all. But we scheduled in to talk about lay the field on the F1 into this podcast. It's a strategy that does work. It will work for you. Yeah, you have to pick a race where you haven't got an overtly dominant driver, so you don't have to do it before the off. You can do it mid-race, so there's no time frame on it. So you can see how they're getting on. So if Max is absolutely caning it, just stay away from the strategy. But if there is a chance that there's a couple of drivers contending for it, because at 1.7 you only need 2 drivers to match for it for a profit. If you went to 2s, you'd break even, and if you went to anything above 2s, you'd need a third driver to match. So at this point you only need 2 drivers to match at 1.7 or 2s or less, but ideally 1.7. You need to pick a track where people can overtake on, and where you haven't got a dominant driver, most important thing.
Well, let's hope something goes wrong for Max in the next handful of races then, because there are some tracks on there where there should be plenty of overtaking.
You've got to remember there isn't a driver who's currently racing in F1 that's ever driven around that Las Vegas circuit, so I'll be keeping my eye on that one.
Yeah, no, that's very true, but I don't know how advanced these simulators are they use now, but I'm sure they're all pretty familiar with it.
Yeah, you got to remember, being a street circuit as well, there's going to be some tight walls, I should imagine, so we're going to have to see how people get on with it, because it comes down to how brave you are with that gap between the car and the racing line and the wall. And Max, as we've seen, tends to be quite brave, but back in the racing Lewis Hamilton days, that did bring him a cropper a few times, so there is a chance. That is not a tip, by the way.
My tip would be, if there are tight walls, you'll soon know about it when you see Lance Stroll spinning around 360 degrees with his car in pieces.
Yeah, it's a classic example of somebody having their seat paid for rather than earning, because I genuinely can't see how he's still got a seat.
I think he's the last one now, isn't he? Because Latifi's gone. There's a lot of talk, believe it or not. I know he has bags of talent. It's Lando Norris, because his dad is one of the richest men in the UK, but fortunately for him, he does have the talent to back it up.
Is his dad one of the richest men in the UK?
Yeah, he's like in the top 5.
Oh, is he? I don't even know what his dad does for a living.
I've no idea. I'm from Bristol. That's all I know.
Well, I am having a search. So Adam Norris is a 47-year-old retired pensions fund manager and investor from Bristol.
Doesn't really give it away.
No, he can't be that rich, surely. He's only worth 205 million.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could grow that if you got on the exchange, couldn't you, Mark?
Yeah, so the way I work out if people are well off is by quite a complex formula. So if he's got his net worth 205 million, that's roughly about 19 months of BTC membership. So he's not that well off.
No.
In 2 years, he would have blown his bank.
That's about even getting to yeah. That's about getting to place a trade, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. And we get a lot of comments of like, why would the BTC hate? Why would the Betfair trading community hate? I will reaffirm my position, because we had one on James's video, which at the time recording came out last night, and people asking why the hate with BTC, and I'll clear it up. The hate with BTC is they are a group of software salesmen who claim to be traders. Now, I have no problem with the software. I've never used it. When they advise strategies and say they're profitable, but then remove them and doctor the results, or they claim to be pro traders when they're not. It's the lies I have an issue with. So I have an issue with these people are using lies and deception to then sell something that on its own could be quite good, but they decided to go down the Ben Michaels route, which James covered in the video yesterday with an analogy that I won't repeat on here, but I did find very funny.
And this podcast has been brought to you by BTC, because they're cunts.
Yeah, that's getting beeped. Yeah, no, it's so that's just for anybody listening to this. If you made it this far, that's where the hatred comes from. But it is what it is.
Do you think? I've got a challenge for you for the next podcast or video. That is to not mention them.
Nope. I'm fine.
Categorical. Not happening.
Not happening. If it was like a swear jar, every time I said it, I had to pay money. Just let me know what I owe you. I suppose in a certain way, it's a bit of publicity, because we keep mentioning who they are. So take the positives. He'll still be sat in his shed now.
Well, before we do move on to the next section, do you have anything else to add outside of BTC towards the Formula One later field strategy?
No, I'll just reiterate what I said, where you want to pick it where there isn't a dominant driver. Pick a track where they can overtake on, and pick a decent price. If you can't get 1.7, as long as it's under 2s, just go for the price. You want to be taking more than break even, don't you? So that's it.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Matt. Matt, we're going to move on to learn how to pick a racehorse winner, a YouTube video published by Trading the Market, and the video is presented by myself, a bit egotistical. It's had 20,000 views and it's been out for 2 years. And I'm going to throw it over to you because it's a video that you recently rediscovered. Is that correct?
Yeah, was that released 2 years ago? I thought it was quite recent.
No, 2 years ago.
Bloody hell. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, it's a video I rediscovered off the back of a conversation talking about horses. I see it as one of the pinnacles of sports trading. I think some people call it the sport of kings, don't they? But I've always liked horses. I could, in some cases, actually watch horse racing without having money on it. But I thought, I do want to get involved with horses, and I was always put off by lays and not knowing where to start. I discovered this video, and I thought, well, surely just using a racing post isn't going to be enough, is it? Playing along with the video, I was actually picking the horses that were winning. I think it was the last 2 or 3. But what fascinated me most and what really wanted me to give this a go was the sheer volume of negativity in the comments on that video. It blew me away. But having paper traded this myself for the month of September, I can tell you that it does work.
Yeah, so I take it it's important to put this is not an advertisement for the fact that we've got anything to sell, because we haven't, and we're not promoting anything. But it is something you've been doing yourself over the month of September. Do you care to tell us how September's gone with you basing it on this video?
Yep, so using 1 point, no financial value, just 1 point, off the back of about 260 selections, it is 30 points up.
In 1 month?
Sounds a lot of selections. Yeah. Since then, I've been making up rules as I go along to figure out what I'm going to drop. So, like distances, age groups, whether I select national hunt versus flats. So I will make adjustments to that, and I will actually use £1 minimum stakes on Smarkets for this for the month of October. See if we can repeat that.
It'll have to be something you come back to us with your results in a couple of podcast time. Once October's done with. Can you tell us what you've been doing? What have you been picking out on the horses? So what do you take from the video? What do you do differently now? What did you achieve by rewatching that video and studying it?
I do exactly what you do. It doesn't take me a great deal of time. I think the thing that probably takes the longest is putting it all on the spreadsheet, writing down the class, the age groups and the distances. But I look at the ratings. I then look at the speed, which you have to be careful with, as you do explain in your speed rating video, which you released recently. That's worth looking at more vividly than the rest, but I compare those two bits of data, and then I will scroll down and read the spotlight, and then I've got to make a decision from there. I don't worry about price. I make my selection first, then go back and put in the price.
Yeah, of course. And as you know, this is something that I genuinely do for picking horses. I also do it the night before, and I pick out which horse I believe will run as favourite, and I trade the night before to cash out before the race on the horse that streamed in.
I can see how you do quite well out of that. Personally, I didn't really do National Hunt. I know we're at the start of that season and we're getting towards the end now of flats, so I will have to go away and study National Hunt racing, certainly before the end of October, which is when the flat season does officially end, isn't it?
It is, yeah. There'll still be some old weather, but I know you've been staying away from that. Can you tell us why you've decided to choose flats over National Hunt hurdles?
Early on, I found that National Hunt was more unpredictable, quite small fields, and I think because it was at the start of the season, this is just more of an opinion than a fact, I believe, but I just felt the quality was pretty poor, so I focused just on the flat grass races and the odd weather.
And how are you going to go away and learn National Hunt? Are you going to just start testing, see what works, what doesn't work? Have you got a plan?
I will paper trade National Hunt alongside what I will actually be trading on, well, betting on. So I will bet on the flats, and I'll keep a separate tab open for me to try and hone understanding how to pick a winner on the national hunt. Hopefully the quality would have improved by then, and there'll be a few more meetings popping up.
Yeah, I know you look at the RPR, because in the video I say to look at the RPR. Is that still something you've heavily focused on?
Yeah, that's probably my... Well, actually, that is my main selection tool.
The RPR, yeah.
Me whittle it down to a list. Yeah.
Yeah, and...
Yeah, the Racing Post ratings.
Yeah, I say in the video, and I'll say on the podcast, the people at the Racing Post have no intentions other than mislead you. They have a premium service they want to sell, and they try to give you the best data possible. So it's within their interest to judge the race and the horses as they run, rather than a handicapper who gets the be all and end all on a race and can control the official rating. So I do much prefer the RPR, and I hope you can see why.
Yeah, I done myself a disservice at times by just picking too many selections. I knew I was doing that, but because I was only paper trading, which isn't an excuse, I thought, well, no, I'm going to do this to see if I can see a pattern. So that's my excuse as to why I picked so many horses. However, with real funding going into it, I'll eliminate things. Like, for example, I don't want 5 furlong races, and I probably won't go with 2-year-old races. That's 2 of my rules. I do find I have more success actually on races over 1 mile.
You could probably use a limiter on the RPR, so if you've got horses that are under a certain RPR, then you necessarily don't need to include them, because horses that have a lower Racing Post rating tend to be more unpredictable. So, for example, Class 6 horses, the favourite in a Class 6 horse very rarely wins compared to the favourite in a Class 1, Class 2. So, if you wanted a bit more consistency, you could have a look for the horses that are above a certain RPR. So if every horse in that race isn't above a certain RPR, you can just discount the race that way.
I can hear myself fluffing my way through it when I'm trying to explain to you what I do. It'd be interesting to see how well I can explain that again at the end of October.
Well, we will come back to it.
It's a work in progress.
We will cover it, and it's a lot of newness to you, and you're a month in, but to be, even paper trading, to be a month in and 30 points up is phenomenal. It'd be phenomenal if it was real money. So it's phenomenal regardless, isn't it?
You have to accept that you're going to pick a lot of losers along the way.
Yeah, of course, and that mentally can be draining to you, I suppose.
Not overly, because when there were good days, they could be up significantly. I think across the whole, I think I only done 22 to 25 days of the month anyway, but I think there were only 2 days where there were figures at a loss where I thought, bloody hell, that's a lot. The rest of it was either it would just wipe out the day before, or it would just be a couple of points down. Sometimes you only do need 1 or 2 in a day to keep your head above the water. But what I will also say as well, quite early on, I figured out not to bother with Fridays and Saturdays.
Very, very important, yeah. And do you want to tell us why?
As you told me, Mark. Yeah, I believe that is because that is a punter's day, isn't it? So there's a lot of talk that the trainers and owners might not care so much.
Yeah, it's a different. The racing dynamics work differently, and it is a punter's day. Definitely a punter's day. There's more money to be made on the market for the people who enter in horses than there is to be made in prize money as well.
Interesting. So racing is not bent at all then, is it?
It's absolutely 100% corrupt.
As is Irish racing, which I also don't do.
Yeah, it is corrupt. It's just knowing who the good guys are, that's all. And you mentioned about the negativity of the video, so I knew we were going to talk about the negativity of the video, Matt. So you'll be pleased to know I pulled out a few comments to read and go through. This won't hurt my ego at all, which people think I have a massive one of anyway.
Fantastic. Lead away.
Yeah, so I've picked out some comments, and I will tell you now, every one of them is negative. But we'll discuss. So, 2 years ago, MJ9235 said, the problem with this is you're trying to sucker people in with very limited info, and not to mention the result of the 3 races was most probably known before you recorded it. So there is no validity to your claims. I'm not knocking your video because you do give a good guide to very basic form study, but it's disappointing to see yet another YouTuber with pre-recorded results stroke picks. I bet on these using a Sky Bet account. I don't know how I would have done that after the race, but somebody else may have suggested that I bet on pretty much every horse in every race.
Is this the one that said there's 12 bets there? I do remember that comment.
Oh no, there is another one to come. So we'll go with it's Kim MMMP6174 a year ago. Exactly, this is a response to that previous comment. Exactly, he's clueless bro, man talking about picking tips based on RPR, then tips a random horse with a very low RPR without any reason at all because the Spotlight comment said he has no chance, laugh out loud. He's also seen the outcome of these races, then made the video, lol. Gives no logical reason why he picked the outsider in the second race, lol.
There is a lot of hatred on there towards the Spotlight comments, and I can understand that because I think if I look at it from my perspective, which is probably even below the average punter, because a lot of people think they know about horses, don't they? Because they know a bloke who knows a bloke who works in a yard sweeping up horse shit. I get it, because Racing Post is notoriously bad for its tipsters, as most tipsters are anyway. Twitter is an absolute cesspit for it. So I can reason with that as to why people see the Racing Post on the video and think, oh, for God's sake, what a load of bollocks.
Well, what I will say, the Spotlight comments will tell you is stuff that you may have missed. So you don't look at it because you very rarely ever see a negative Spotlight comment. But what the Spotlight comments do tell you is if the horse, for example, is wearing a special piece of equipment that it doesn't normally wear, like blinkers, or it can inform you about maybe it's had a wind up. So it does provide you with some useful information.
Yeah,
and that leads,
it definitely does.
That leads very nicely onto the next comment, which is from user-RZ9FW7PB90. Very creative. I'm reading them out as they wrote them, so I'm not spelled correcting any of the comments. Professional gambler is reading Spotlight. A lot of laughing faces. Says a lot. Yeah. Okay, mate. No worries. We have Eaton and Peace 9340. There were 12 bets, but only showing 4. Curtis shows the others 2.
That's the one.
Yeah, that was a year ago. There were only 4. That's the only ones I made. I was lucky to get all 4. I don't win on every horse race. I'm just lucky I got 4 in a row. The system itself, for the want of a better word, because I don't like using the word system, but the profiling that I was teaching in that video does work. Anybody's going to say Matt's biased because he's part of trading the market and we're paying him to say that. Well, Matt doesn't get paid a penny by any of us, and he is doing it off his own back. So, Matt, are we influencing you anyway?
It's trial, isn't it? I know, obviously, if I am the right guy, there will be the reward. No, of course not. I do it because I want to learn and I like the community.
Good.
And I think having the opportunity to do this gives me a fantastic way to learn.
Exactly. And obviously with you supporting the community, all for free, you have access to myself, James, Aaron and Ian, and the like minds of the other moderators in our Discord service, which you can click the link in the description to join. And because of the work you do, we spend more time coaching and helping you. I'm going to read another comment, which is LFC Monkey Man 6229 from 6 months ago. The only way O would believe this is if you went live so we can see what really happens, not voiced over and edited. I could have a bet on a few horses in every race and get 4 winners, then edit the bet slip so it looked like I backed all 4. Funny how those trading people never go live. It's always pre-recorded and always shows them winning, never losing, and they're making so much money from trading. Why are they asking for clicks and subscriptions just to make a few pennies? Go live, tell us you're doing before the race and not edit afterwards. Do you remember James's upside down taxi crash?
Yes, I do. It was brilliant because he sounded like he was half cut in the video and just couldn't be asked. It was fantastic.
Oh, he's that upside down taxi does lose, and we've been called out for so many times for showing that we hadn't lost, or we don't lose, or so on and so forth. In a strategy video, we're trying to show the outcome, the desired outcome, by the way, not something losing. He went to make a video of losing upside down taxi trade, but following the rules. And the problem he had was he had so many that won in a row where he wanted them to lose. So he wasn't half cut. He was literally just fed up of winning trades, and that sounds ridiculous, but he was purposely trying to lose one to the point of where games he couldn't get on because he had to be away, and he still would have picked. He was asking for us to record ourselves trading it so he could use it to show when it doesn't go right. And then he was actually quite relieved when he got that one that lost, because he was able to then use that to put the video, because that waiting for that losing trade probably delayed the video for about a week.
Blimey.
And the reason we don't lose as often as other people is not because we're traders on YouTube, it's because we put the effort in, we put the research in, we put in the
due diligence.
Yeah, and because of that, we tend to have more winners because we have not only have the knowledge, we do our due diligence, and we sort of have we definitely have an idea of what we're doing when things go wrong. So in order to turn trades into profit when other people then lose or react by just trading out. Also, they wanted to go live and tell us what they're trading before the race. No, I'm not doing that. That's tipping. I don't tip. I'm not going to tell you what to trade. I don't tell anybody what I'm trading on before it happens. I just trade my own game. And I would say
I can tell you, I'll back that up, that's genuine. Not once have you told me what to get on. There might have been times where you tried to explain something, you said something, and you've gone, that is not a tip. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can vouch for that. And I'm sure others can as well. I know Hamish can, for example.
Yeah, and I was quite smart with Hamish today in the sense that I was speaking to him, and he was telling me about this horse that Holly Doe was riding, wasn't going to win, and he was like, yeah, that horse, I can't see that horse ever winning, it won't win. So I put quite a bit of money on laying it, and I did that on the basis that Hamish told me it wasn't going to win. And Hamish's heart was in his mouth, because now he had the responsibility. He bear the responsibility of me potentially losing money for a decision he's made. Yeah, it was a bit cruel. But he was right. The horse didn't win. But
you made the right decision.
Yeah, but you don't understand when you genuinely only want to help people in the world that you don't tip because the idea of somebody losing money because of something you've done, that it makes me feel sick. And people don't think like that because they think we're just on YouTube trying to make money through ad revenue. Where I can tell you now, and we've been quite public with it, the channel runs at a massive loss, and there's no profit made out of it. We do it because we do it out the kindness of our heart. And for anybody who wants to post comments like this, feel free. I have a chuckle to them. But they make no difference. I've got a couple more for you actually, Matt. And then I've got a special one from the podcast, which I just want to cover off, and then we can be done with the negativity. So this is, we've got Forrest Groner 255, and he's wrote, "It's bullshit. If he could win, wouldn't tell anyone. Would you? Ha ha ha. How the hell can you know how much a horse will improve? What's it done is not a good indicator on how it will perform now. The trainer won't tell you how much it's improved. Lol." Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Forest Growler.
Thank you for what, sorry?
I said thank you, Forest Growler. That was the name?
It's like Grogor, or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah. Next. Yeah, not interested. Yeah, no problem. Well done. Nice comment. You got it read out on a podcast. Well done. Mr. Logneeg is 1 year ago. Absolute nonsense. Let's see you bet for P&L for 3 months. Bet you won't share that. Well, I don't know if you if you remember, we've put our P&L in a fair few videos, haven't we now, Matt, to be fair?
Yeah, and if he wants fresh content, I believe James only done it last night.
Yeah. Well,
it's very well. You're welcome to see it, but it ain't going to teach you anything.
No. And if you don't believe us, that's not a problem. Please do me this one favour, unsubscribe, and then go on with your life, because I'd hate to think we were influencing in such a negative way that you feel that you have to write comments like that. But I hope everything's alright at home, that's all I'm saying. And Tiger Black 3264, last one. So bear with us, because this has got most of the spelling mistakes in it. Come on, man. Reading comments, you pick the winner just likey. That lol. It don't say anything specific to make one different of the others. You make it sound as off it's chill's game. People are losing serious money because you're irresponsible.
Nice.
Oh, sorry, there is a bit more attitude towards the betting systems you are offering. There is more than just this simple, useless approach. Come on now.
And how do we access these said systems?
I'm not sure. I can't access any system on my computer currently because I've pressed F7 on this comment and it's currently running a spell check on that last comment.
Okay, I was going to say that was your opportunity to plug the YouTube or the Academy.
Oh, you can ask me again.
And where can we find said systems, please, Mark?
You can find it on our YouTube channel, which is Trading the Market, or you can go to our Academy website. And just so Matt knows, I am leaving all that last bit in as well. We can go to tradingthemarket.co.uk to access the Academy to go through that for basic and advanced training in trading through strategies and discipline, or you can access the YouTube channel to watch all our amazing content, and you can pick out the videos.
We get paid tomorrow, so I will sign up.
Oh, it's free of charge, of course, Matt. You very well know this, and you've always said it to prove that we are free. And if you want any other reason to go and have a look at the videos on YouTube channel, you can pick out the ones with James in with his silky smooth voice.
Absolutely.
Brilliant
work.
I just wanted to cover one last comment, and as we record without a script, I will just have to find it. And this one is a particular favourite one of mine, and it's from episode 2, if you can remember that far back, of Lay Back and Trade, where we teaching people how to why women make better traders than men. I just wanted to cover because there's something in it that made me sort of laugh quite a bit. But
no, you've caught me off guard there, so let's go for it.
So Johnny Barnes -THSZC 2 weeks ago wrote, "Yes, women are so risk averse that very few of them ever even bet or trade, so how are they better traders?" Which is fine. Somebody then wrote, "Have you got the stats on that? I'd be surprised how many women bet or trade." And he wrote, "No stats, just use my common sense. Also, don't get why he's telling a predominantly male audience that women are better traders than men." To which I believe it was James that replied, "So you can learn to adapt your skill set to be a better trader, maybe." To which Johnny's replied back, "There's nothing wrong with my or men's skills as trader, and even if there was, I don't hear or know of any women traders that would improve them. The only successful traders that I hear of are all men."
What is he, electrician, plumber?
Uneducated. The reason I picked out this comment, and the reason because I'm going to say annoyed me, and it didn't annoy me. I'm fine with people thinking this, but you're a brave old soul to write it down. And the reason you don't see so much of women with YouTube channel trading and talking about women traders or women gamblers is because I also covered in that video that women make better traders because they lack any form of ego. The sort of ego you have to have in order to start a YouTube channel, the sort of ego that you have to force all your opinions and ideas on other people, the sort of ego that you have to write. There's nothing wrong with my or men's skills as a trader.
It's a crazy world.
Well, Johnny is a very example of why you should take the advantage of learning from women traders who, as you very well know, there is a fair few of them in our community, and all very knowledgeable, to the ones I've spoken to anyway, at least. And I know you know a couple.
Yeah.
And they are without ego. They're very self-deprecating. They're very knowledgeable. They are risk-averse. And they do have a great mentality towards trading. So when they get hit, or in the sense of they take a couple of losses, they either dust themselves off people who come back and just do the rhythm and routine, rinse and repeat again and again and again. And I will say that all the messages I get as direct messages off people going, "Can you teach me one-on-one? Can you tell me what I need to bet on? Will you send me today's horses so I could trade on them? I really need the money." Every one of them messages I've had that's like that has always come from a bloke. And I'm not using stats, I'm just using my common sense for that one, Matt.
Yeah, no, I can't say I'm surprised at that. I'm sure most people listening, if they're honest with themselves, would probably say the same.
Yeah, it was just a strange one. But yeah, we live and move on. Some people can't learn, and some people won't learn. And for everybody else, they can message Johnny Barnes. So we'll move on to the next segment if you're okay. And
yeah, absolutely. So just to touch on the subject again, this was a paper trade this month of picking horses off the back of your very negative video. 30 points up on paper. I'm going to take it away for the month of October and see if I can replicate that with a few more rules added in order for me to pick less selections, and win or lose, I'll let you know how it goes.
Honestly, Matt, I can't wait to get the results of that. I can't wait for you to talk through it with far more confidence of as you pick up and learn on the way.
Hopefully I share that vision.
I'm sure you will. Thank you for talking through what you're doing as well, Matt.
No problem. Right, Mark, thank you very much for giving us your insights there.
You're welcome.
Well, we're at that point of the season now where it's time for us to take full advantage of the numerous football games that are happening around mostly Europe at the moment. So Mark, James did do a video in a bit of detail around why to wait 8 games. Can you please just bullet point for us why it's so important to wait for 8 games? Because it'd be nice for it to be fresh in everybody's mind when they open up that Betfair Exchange website and just piss it all into the markets.
Yeah, no problem, Matt. It's a nice, easy subject. We wait 8 games because we trade primarily on data, and we use the 8 games in order to give us enough baseline data in order to trade with the confidence that the data we have is relevant. And we have to wait to 8 games in the season purely for the fact that the team, if we use the 8 games from the previous if we use the last 8 games from the previous season, the mentalities, the focus, the managers, the teams, the finances, there's a number of things that could all be different or either improved or adverse to that team, which would then cause them to play differently, or they could assign somebody. So we wait 8 games in order to give us a baseline of data of how that team is currently performing. And I will give an example of the game last night where I believe Newcastle beat Man United 1-0, is that correct?
Manchester City.
Sorry, Manchester City. I do apologise. I was drinking quite heavily yesterday. In the cup. I know we don't trade cup games, but it just shows that one team that the smart money would have been on Man City winning that game, but yet Newcastle held them to a 1-0. And it's that dominance that Man City have had over previous seasons may not be into this season. So that is genuinely why we wait for the 8 games. I was only messaged today by somebody asking for a bit of advice, saying you wait 8 games, is that 8 home games and 8 away games? And no, it's just 8 games, so regardless of whether they're home or away.
Mark, thank you very much. Everybody can't wait to get stuck into that, I'm sure. I'm one of them. Well, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that again. Next week we're going to be looking over laying the draw in football. Greyhound profiling. I know there's people that are looking forward to that one. They have been asking for it for a while. And finally, we'll be getting into the mental zone again of how to treat your trading like a business. Really looking forward to that one in particular.
No, thanks for this week's episode as well. This bi-weekly episode, Matt. And thanks again for hosting. Is there anything you'll be trading this week?
This week, I'll be looking at the data sheets to see if I can find games in Europe that meet the 8 games. There should be a few. I know Aaron did post a warning. And if they're there, all I'll be looking for is first half goals and potentially second half goals, but probably on the back side just to keep the liabilities down. After that, probably second week of October, I think I'll be jumping on the 3-0 as my primary. How about yourself?
I am currently testing a brand new horse racing strategy, so I've done a bit of paper trading behind it, just to make sure it's something I think is viable. It was brought to me by somebody else, so I was quite interested in the strategy.
Martin Footer.
Say again?
I said Martin Footer.
It was definitely not by Martin Footer. It was by our very own Ian. So he's noticed something. He's told me about it. I think it's got legs massively, and it's in a market that I don't normally look at as well. And when I've been playing around with requesting prices, I can tell you I've discovered quite a lot of bot action and automation action, and I've managed to find a way of making money from that in itself.
Can't wait to hear that. I'm sure there are plenty of us that are waiting for this. Bated breath.
Yeah, as long as I get permission to publish it. But if I don't, I can tell you how to use other people's automations against them. As I was on chatting to Hamish today and explaining and showing how I enter a price and the automation automatically tops up the price. So it's early stages, but it's something I'm hoping to bring to you in a video soon.
Superb work. Looking forward to it. Well, that concludes episode 4, series 2. Join us in a couple of weeks for some more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You picked lay back and trade, probably because you thought BTC stood for Bicycle Tyre Collectors.